The good thing about it is if you go through it, we can look at it as many times as we need to make sure we get it right.
Yeah. But I guess my first thought tonight is welcome everybody. Is the better quality work that we're seeing, is it due to the format, the system, the follow-up, and how much of improved work could we correlate maybe or associate with peer review?
I don't think it's peer review.
Pardon?
I do not think it's peer review.
Okay.
In fact, I was going to suggest that one of the first things I would like to do next semester would be to meet with the peer review teams before they ever hardly get started, because they're telling me they really didn't understand the rubric till they were at the end, and they've been grading the paper very scary. You know, I don't know. Barbara, you can chime in on that probably too.
Well, I think you're right, Gene. I think it's like the case of the blind leading the blind here.
Yep.
I just don't think they have enough knowledge or training with the AP component, or even some of the rubrics until we get further into the season. I think we need our session. I think they need a background which they don't have when they first come in 601.
Right. And I tried to be really tough with it, and I'm hoping next semester it's going to pay off. But boy, they are not used to using rubrics, and they just don't believe you're going to hold them to it.
Well, and I think one of the things that Jean mentioned, I think a lot of it depends on the student, because in some of the 605s, I've seen really, really good peer reviews, and they have been very helpful, and they've learned to depend on each other. But then there's some of them that are not very good at all. So I think it just goes back to what the student and how attuned they are to what the rubric's asking for.
Well, Barbara, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the operative word you talk about is 605, because they've had numerous semesters to know the rubrics and know the APA format, and to basically to build that knowledge base. There's probably a big difference between the peer review in 601 and peer review in 605.
Right.
And I think it's because they've got their semesters of training and knowledge, whereas they come into 601, they're clueless.
Well, I do think with
I don't. Maybe that's a bad word, clueless.
No,
but,
I think you're
I
right.
know sometimes I am.
But
one of my students actually said that to me. She said, we really did not know what we were doing, and a couple of them actually changed their correct papers to be incorrect because the people in the team convinced them they were wrong, and they had to go back and use an early draft to pull it out of the fire.
Yeah.
my question, I guess, is, can we get them? Obviously, we like where they are in 605. Can we get them there to 605 without having to put up with the terrible reviewing that's going on in 1, the adequate reviewing in 3, to get the good reviewing in 5? I guess you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Nope.
But I realize and I recognize that peer reviewing is not very good in the beginning.
It is not.
I call it American bandstand reviewing. I give it a 55. It's got a good beat and you can dance to it. That's how much information that they're giving. See, now y'all are my people. Y'all get that reference. I say that to you.
What's American bandstand?
Exactly.
But there is one thing that you need to remember. It still goes back to the individual student. Even
right.
5, there's some that are just not very skilled and very good at all. They'll write maybe one little sentence. But then the ones that have had the good ones, they'll write almost a page and a paragraph about all of them and let people know what they are. And the same
exactly.
Some of the 602. But in 601, you do have to spend a tremendous amount of time actually teaching the rubric first.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the Zoom peer reviews? What do you think about the value of those?
I can't speak to that, except that I would like to Zoom with those groups very early so that we can all be on the same page. I mean, it's almost like they need to read it. You know, you hate to read it to them and have them read it out loud like, you know, round robin reading. But I've had people say, I wish we had just spent more time understanding the rubric, and poor Barbara was pounding away at it. I was pounding away at it. I don't know how we didn't pound it in them.
Yeah.
They don't read. They won't read.
Oh,
That's right. They don't, and
They don't read and they don't listen and they don't play the videos back that we set up for them, and they don't play the things where we've had a Zoom conference. They don't play those back either, because I'll get questions and I think, okay, if you just what I did to introduce the week, you'd have these answers.
yeah.
And I asked at one point, is there some way that we can check not the number of people who accessed our videos, but the people who accessed our videos? And if not, can we give some kind of a little test to say, you know,
No.
That'll be something else for us to grade.
No.
well, I know, but I'm going through these papers
Let me show you. I'm getting I'm getting blowback and complaints, even from KTA, to the point where they wanted a statement about the actual requirements here for peer reviewing and coming online and all those things. And I directed them to the handbook. Let's see. Oh, by the way, Mark's dad passed away. Prayers for him if you didn't know. He'd been going through a real rough time, and so it was a blessing. I can say that. I hate to, but having done the same thing 5 years ago this spring, I know that path. I have walked it myself. All right, so here was the question that came from KTA, the graduate people. And I don't know why they're doing this, but we did a monthly check-in with the students and received feedback regarding the Zoom sessions and trying to keep up with children's weekly schedules. When we are covering program information during the application, we usually let applicants know they'll have online chats, webinars, and weekly discussions throughout the program. How often are students meeting for Zoom sessions? I want to have the team communicate. And so what I did is I referred them to the Scale Handbook, online format, and it says asynchronous. That means we cannot require them to come to anything online. Anything. But we tell them we're going to do whole group, small group, and online, and here are the definitions for those. But we cannot require them to ever come online with us, and we cannot set up the program so that they would be penalized or wouldn't be able to get the information if they didn't come online with us. I agree. They do not look at the videos. They do not read the work. Danny and I go through this every week with our groups. I am familiar with that. And because these people grew up with cell phones and technology, they think it's all intuitive and that they'll just figure it out as they go. They don't, but that's what they think.
Okay, Dale.
They don't put any work in it.
But then the question becomes, at some point, if we've covered it, I mean, I know I coordinate with Barbara and I know what's going on in her class. And if I know that she's covered it, I've covered it, it's in the Zoom, I'm ready to, instead of spending hours editing their papers, to just say, please review the Zoom session we had on such and such a date, because they are expecting me to edit their papers. And I want them to be successful, and I want our program to keep students, but they need to know how to do it.
Just what we're going to need to do is just refer them. Now, they don't have to be online with us, but now that doesn't mean that they're not required to go back and see it. And
well, that's what I'm asking.
But we can't put any kind of a process in place that would require them or would penalize them if they didn't. Supposedly, if they're smart enough and can read and follow directions, they're supposed to be able to get through this program just by reading the material. Now, we know that that's probably not truthful, but that's the deal here. But what I want, part of what I want to talk about is, I'm not a big believer in Zoom peer reviews. I think there is value in peer reviews, and you got to kind of suffer through them for the first semester or two, but then they get good, and the actual reviewing is good feedback for when they have to write teacher evaluations and be critical and do those things and follow a rubric. I think the peer review, the process is much more valuable than the product.
I keep telling them that. They've got to figure out how to tell a teacher she's doing a stinky job.
That's exactly
in nice
right.
language.
But I'm just not convinced that doing the Zoom reviews is of great value in itself, because they do selfies and chats and online all the time on that, and that's really the deal there. But they don't give critical feedback on other people's work. So the review process, the written review process, I like. The peer review by Zoom, not so much. They tend to lay in their pajamas in beds and talk, and there's a lot of off-task behaviors. So here's Dale's idea. 4. Is anybody doing more than 4 a semester for their students right now? I've cut mine down to 4. And I'm thinking seriously about
different times. When you say 4, define what you're talking about for sure.
4, they have to written review every one of the 9 tasks that they have from me this semester. They have to do a written peer review of all 9 tasks, 2 of them for their peers. But I'm only requiring their little peer group, their little Zoom peer group that does peer reviews, I'm only requiring 4 per semester.
I see. Okay, that's fine.
The original idea was that they would Zoom all of them and write them all up, and all of that's crazy. I'm down to 4. I could, if somebody could make a compelling argument, I could be talked into 2, I think.
So Dale, are you saying, is that part of the class or part of the internship or part of the clinical?
It's actually part of the class.
Okay, that's what I thought. It's so the Zoom part.
Actually part of the class. Oh. I've got drop boxes in all of your classes for that. That's written into the scale handbook as part of your class.
Well, see, I haven't had a class yet, and so that's why I've had interns, and I will have a class this time. But I wanted to make sure I was on the right.
But that's why I was asking if it would be possible for me as the coach to actually meet early in the semester.
You can do it optionally, but you can't require them. It's asynchronous. Now, I've gone over that with the dean of the graduate school again today. And this is obviously I didn't write this, it's too literate, but this is directly from the handbook. And this is not going to change. We're actually going the other direction. And so what I guess what I'm saying is unless somebody can talk me out of it, we're going to continue to written peer review all tasks. But for this summer, two Zoom video peer reviews for the summer, just 2. And I'll put that in the email that I'm doing. Just 2. There's no way we can do 4 this summer and they be at the hoot. But what I want what I want the instructors to stress is we're only going to do 2 this summer, but we want good ones. Look professional. Be sitting up in a chair. Have adult clothes.
I've said some of that in my Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Oh gosh! It goes
stop reading your phone and watching TV while you're listening to me. Yes.
And so, so I'll think about it for the fall, but I'd already had this question that we were kind of getting jammed up on peer reviews because of the Zoom deal. Just do 2 this summer. I'm going to go back and in the shells for the summer on the drop boxes for the things that are going to be graded. You're only going to see 2 boxes for Zoom peer reviews. Now, you'll see a box for all of the written reviews, but just 2, and that's why. And if that goes well, we may not start this. We may start this fall with just doing 2. I'm just not so. I think the peer reviews have the potential by the time they get to 605 to be a good learning tool for having critical conversations with people about their work product, which you have to do in our line of work, but
they need it.
Part, not so much right now. So all right, so that's the first thing I wanted to cover tonight. So I've got some feedback on that.
One of the things that I've noticed also is some of those peer reviews are not peer reviews. They begin discussing what the teacher means or the clinical coach means or whatever, because I don't listen to it all the way through, but I listen to bits and pieces of those peer reviews. And so many times, or at least with some of the ones that I have this semester and last semester, they begin talking about us instead of what they're supposed to be.
Oh, yeah. My ears burn all the time. and I get thrown into things that I absolutely have no business in, and that's the next two things on the list. If anybody has a question about graduation, send them to Seth. I don't care if it's for this semester or if it's for the summer or if it's for the fall. All questions for graduation go to Seth. As you can see, he gives good, and students say, thank you for the information. This was helpful. He has all that information, and I have empowered him to be the shell answer man on graduation. Because I do not have banner access. As you can see, I'm on a laptop. I do not have a hardwired desktop in my office, so I do not have a secure connection. So I do not have a banner portal at my disposal to be able to look at all those things that Seth can look at for graduation. I know how to look for them. I don't have access. As you can see, my place has looked this way for 7 years, and so I don't anticipate or ever how many years I've been here. It's just basically a closet with a shelf in it. I've got my box where I can leave in 5 minutes or less. I travel light, so I don't have any of that, the technology to look up all the things that have to be looked up for graduation questions. And Seth does. As you know, he has multiple screens and everything hardwired into servers. And so all questions for graduation go to him, because he can look all that stuff up immediately. All right, so that one. And as you can see, he's very helpful. He gets back to them fairly quickly. Let's see. Now, the next thing. Let me get this one out of the way. Questions like this one. See, I told you my ears were burning today. I was thrown into this one with Dr. Neal about something that happened last spring. I have no clue about what this lady's talking about. And I've already talked to the graduate school about this one. And so my advice to you is, when a student comes to you and says, I have a deal, and my deal is I get course credit, or I get excused, or I get X, Y, and Z, you should forward those to me without comment, and I will forward them on to the graduate school without comment, because I don't know what deals have been cut. I don't cut deals, but for example, this one, we suspect that a deal was cut with this lady to come back after she finished her doctorate in curriculum and instruction. She enrolled with us in an add-on licensure. Now, she is alluding to the fact that somebody, Dr. Neal nor I, couldn't have been me, but even he did not have the authority to waive one of her courses. And she is alluding to the fact that somebody cut a deal with her to waive one of her courses. That makes people up in Webb Hall mad as fire, because that's money, and we don't have any. I'd loan them some, but they'd just waste it too, so they're not getting any more.
This is not the student, but I know that was done because I had a student once, a couple of semesters ago, that had that same kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, those deals are only given out at the very highest level. And my suspicion is my last meeting up the hill, they were mad as fire about deals. And so I'm not doing deals. I've never done deals, not going to do deals.
Well, I know it was done because
I know. I've had 8 already this semester. This is number 8. This is not something that happens once, once in a millennium. This happens about every other week.
Yeah. Well, I think she had a doctorate. She was getting a doctorate from Liberty, and she wasn't sure she was going to finish her dissertation in time to have the stamp. And so she made a deal to come and get her license so she wouldn't lose her job because she already had a job.
And so,
I mean, that was, so I know the deals like that are done. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean. I know that there are all kind of deals, but we're, as a department, we're not entering into any of those. And the biggest thing is don't comment on them.
Right.
Because they take those comments, see, just like this one, because she made Dr. Neal aware of this, now she's using him as her support that you have to give me this. Now, he may or may not have been involved in hearing about the deal, but he had no authority to make a deal, nor do I. And so let's avoid even commenting on these deals. Just refer them to me and I'll pass them on up the line. But commenting or saying, well, that's good or whatever, take that to mean that somebody has given them permission on these deals. And let's be careful on the deals. I don't even comment on them myself. And so I'm running this one down right now. And I sent Sarah an email back. Let me handle this one. I'm working on it. Don't get involved in deals. All right, let me go to my drafts. Okay, graduation questions, enrollment questions. They go to Kathy Simpson over in the graduate school. John changed jobs. They haven't replaced John. So Kathy Simpson is the person. If you get a question about enrollment or why am I not admitted or has my classes rolled over, am I registered for 603 this summer? Am I already registered for the fall? Any of those kinds of questions that you get, and I get about a dozen of those a day, please refer those to Kathy Simpson if you get those. And don't comment on those either. Why has my enrollment not been processed? I haven't heard anything. I've appealed to come back early on a readmit. All of those go to Kathy Simpson. Again, no involvement in course substitutions or credits. Let's make sure you just forward those to me. Let's look quickly at task stream. Let's see. Let me move this out of the way. No, don't do that. Okay. Let me back this one up just a hair. It's not doing a hair tonight. There we go. Terrence Bean, he's still grinding away. If you got Terrence, try to light a fire under him. I may be talking to myself on that one.
Nope, he's mine. I sent him several emails about what needs to be done, and I'm getting pieces back.
Most of them have, since last week when I sent that out, most of them finished up, looks like. Kyle Kelly, I don't know where he is. He's got a lot of stuff. I think he's a readmit.
And he's actually going to take summer off and take 605 in the fall. He was supposed to have contacted you.
Yeah.
What about Gary Payne?
Yeah, he's gonna have to go next semester.
God bless us.
I know. He'll be mine. That'll be all right.
We're punishing you rather than him, huh?
I'll get Chrissy on him.
I tried that. Maybe you're probably more influential than I am.
I am with Chrissy, not with him, but we'll get on that one.
I got him in 605.
Yeah.
And he's got the SIAP. He just won't get the stuff on there.
I know.
I don't know I just don't know. But
I don't understand either, but we'll
get through it.
Scrub along. But now with Kyle, that's another one of those that we need to be really careful about.
Yes.
He's already taken one summer off.
Right.
I have sent this one up the line to the registrar, and she has to approve him not coming to school this summer because they give you one extra semester to do your work in terms of your financial aid. So
Right.
if you don't go to school in the summer, but he's already taken one semester off. My suspicion is if he takes the second summer off, he's going to get a bill to start paying his financial aid, and then he's going to be mad as fire. And
I
so
don't think he's getting financial aid because that's the whole reason he's not going in the summer is because he can't pay for it because Kannapolis doesn't pay back until the fall, until October. They'll pay you.
I think he's not on financial aid now, but I think he has financial aid from the first time he was in the program.
Okay.
Now, don't quote me on that, but there is something. There's a financial hold according to the registrar.
Okay.
There's something that he owed that didn't get paid before, and so not just him, but all of them. When they start talking about taking semesters off, we're going to let the registrar make that decision.
Okay.
Because they have to contact the finance office and make sure that all that stuff is in place. I do know, according to the registrar, that there is an issue in the finance office with Kyle Kelly.
Okay.
Now, I don't know, and I didn't ask because I don't want to know what that is. Again, if I get brought into that loop, then I'm responsible for whatever decision is made, and I try to keep us out of the administrative things that are above my pay grade that we can't have any impact on.
Right.
Like graduation and course credits and taking semesters off and paying back your financial aid, all that's above our level. And we've been playing in that field too much, and every time we do, it always comes back to bite me. I've got teeth marks all over my backside from stuff, and it never goes away. I mean, some of this stuff is I've got one that from 2013 that I'm still getting kicked in the shin every day. And so it's not just to make my life easier. That's not the point. The point is that to make all of our lives easier and be a little more professional in what we do here, we need to, if it's a registration question, we need to let the registrar be involved in that. I'm trying to involve more of the people throughout the university and not usurp their authority, because then that makes them mad. And so everybody's mad. The people that make them mad and the students mad, then everybody's mad.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, I told you earlier, I'll show you. You think I'm joking, and I'm not. You see that big box sitting in that chair right behind me? That's my moving box. I can be gone. 5 minutes or less, I'm out of here. I have no diplomas on the wall. I have no pictures. I have a box in my robe, and that's it. This is a laptop. I can close it and go. And throw my keys at them on the way out the door. I've always found that it's best to be able to move quickly and lightly. And so when it gets bad enough, I'll just bug out. But no, I want to involve the people at the university. They seem to appreciate that. Mm-hmm. We don't make decisions that they have to follow through on. And so I follow up with them. And so it doesn't take that much longer, but we're kind of letting them make their decisions and own those decisions. And it seems to be working better for us. The registrar will actually speak to me now.
That's good.
So Janeda, she's a readmit, and so I don't think Janeda's trying to finish this semester.
She hasn't had 605 yet.
Yeah, she's not in 605. She's in 604. She was a readmit. She set out. Her husband passed. She set out a semester. And so I know for her that she can't take another semester off, or they'll demand that she start paying.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm aware of her situation.
There's Gary.
And there's Gary.
Has he turned in anything else?
Not this semester.
He's got a lot of stuff that he still owes us.
Oh, Lord.
there's a callback on Gary's. Who's that? Is that Carly? That's Carly's history. Let me see what's going on with Carly. So that's been sent back for about 13 days, and she's not responded. But Kathy, I reviewed that one. Kathy was absolutely right in sending that one back. It was missing missing a lot of stuff. 2.5 out of 4 was very generous. Yeah, she needed to revise that one. So that was good. Christy, Michaela's mine. I got to make a day trip to the beautiful town of Siler City recently to Chatham Middle School and spend nearly all day with Michaela.
Oh my
But
God.
that was self-inflicted. That was our problem, not hers. When she readmitted, they added her a new DRF, and not understanding that she already had one, didn't know she was a readmit, and so it took us about a half a day to move all of her stuff out of her old DRF into this one. And it's one of those things that you kind of have to do in person. So I think she's the last of those that had 2 DRFs, and we had work in each of them. So I fixed that one myself. So that one's done. Who's this? Tammy Spain. Is this Tammy? Yeah, that got a little work left to do. Okay. But we're doing, as you can see, and then Keely, is that Keely? Lacks her PSYOP, and her competency focus. So we've only got 4. And from all of these, we're doing really well. Now I've got some holdovers from previous programs that I'm working with, but we're doing really well.
Tell me what you
We've got 1 more week before the drop deadline. We can't get their name in the program and get their diploma printed. So they got 1 more week. So those that we mentioned tonight, follow up with them. Tell them they got until next Monday. And I talked with the registrar. She's going to give us to the 30th.
What can you tell me about Orlando Terry and the Sharice Saunders?
Yeah.
They have done nothing in the class this semester.
I know. And I don't understand that.
And
They know they have to make an A-. I'm not understanding why.
I mean, they have turned in no work unless they did it all this weekend, because I didn't check this morning. And I can't imagine them doing that. I mean, one of them hadn't even put in their contact information. That's a fairly simple thing to do.
Yeah, I understand.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I know. So Cheris and Orlando had to retake the class because their GPA, they made a B- in the fall. Their GPA dropped below 3 and they couldn't graduate. So the deal was they had to make an A- this semester just to graduate. And neither one of them seems to be doing anything this semester. I don't really understand that, but
I don't understand it.
I mean, they knew the deal and they both accepted. I have the email trail where they accepted that contract. So
Okay, all right.
I don't know what else that we can do other than just have to wait and see is all I know. But no, I'm not happy with that deal.
Okay.
We should have made a different arrangement than that. But that's one of those things that the graduate school decided. That was their, again, that's kind of their purview. I would not have offered. I would have done something different than that. But that was the recourse that the graduate school offered.
Okay.
I would have not signed on to beat us up more over them.
Okay.
I would have done a course by arrangement with them. It's exactly what I would have done. Now, I am doing 2 courses by arrangement this summer on things that I inherited that was in my purview. Rather than beat us up over that, we have 2 students who need 604 this summer because they were readmitted off track. Again, the graduate school does the readmission. They didn't bother to tell me, and so I inherited 2 that are off track, and so it was left up to me to figure out what to do with them, so I'm doing course by arrangement with them, which means that one of you will not get that headache to deal with. And so, I mean, that's just simply a contract deal. And it makes it much simpler. So that's what I'm doing with them. I wish that we had done a course by arrangement with those 2, but that was not what was offered from the graduate school. That's not a good idea to have students repeat courses. That never goes well. If you've ever been a high school principal, you will know, because it's the same deal. All right, so that should cover all of the housekeeping kind of things. I do want to cover tonight the Turnitin. I've got Jean's pulled up. Let me move this out of the way and move this out of the way so I can go to that. All right, so when you go to your shell, this is Jean's shell. When you go to your shell and you go to Grade Center and then Needs Grading, it will pop up. And she's got several Turnitin assignments tonight. And so you simply go to the student's name and click on the name. All right, and then it will give you this page. You come right here in the center of the page where it says Originality Report and click on that little icon.
Yeah.
And it'll take a minute. It'll grind a little bit, grind a little bit more, and then grind a little bit more. And then this is the score we're looking for over here, right here where it says 20. Now, if you want to know what that means, you can actually click on that 20, and it will give you a breakdown of what is copied. And the 13% is actually pretty low. That's the directions. And so this is a good one. Everything is good. So what you do then, close that box, is you go back and you close the Feedback Studio window, and it'll take you back here. You replace that exclamation point with 100, and in the box you write excellent, submit, submit for evaluation in task stream, and then you submit that, and that information goes directly back to the student. Grade updated, click on Needs Grading again, and it'll take you back to what needs to be graded again.
Okay. So, okay, that's okay. I'll just look through it again, make sure. Thank you so much for going through that.
I'll do one more. I'll do one more quickly. I'll do Patrick Marshall.
Oh, he's a good guy.
And then again on the
So
original.
the exclamation point there where it says grade.
That just reminds you that you got to grade it and say something to him.
Okay.
This one's 23. That's very good. We can close that feedback. Again, I'm closing that window, going back. That exclamation point is to remind you, hey, you got to say something to these people.
Okay.
You say excellent.
Okay. So if I didn't put something in there, see, the problem is that I did one and I didn't put anything in there. I wrote the comment, but then it showed up as 100 out of 100 in the grade center. Over here where you say full grade center.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Weaver maybe that happened. Right here. See, it says 100, and this one has 100.
Well, now that's their total. To see what they got in that column, you got to go over to where it says Aptel final.
Oh, this is,
There it is. Nope.
Aptel final evidence narrative. See, there's nothing there for Weaver.
oh, okay. So
that
how did those
100
other things
is their
get there?
total score of what they've got. But you've got to go to the individual column for the final evidence narrative if you want to see what they did in
So
terms
what are
of
these
grade.
totals here?
Pardon?
Why are, I don't understand the totals.
Anything that's been graded.
Well, the only thing that's been graded in there is the final there. So I was worried about the 100.
She
and
got 100 for her Aptel final evidence narrative. She got 100 on that.
But Weaver should have had a good grade also.
Well, she does. She's got 100.
She got a
Excellent.
20.
Submit for evaluation. No, she got 100. That's your grade of how good the work is. Not, you don't put their score, the Turnitin score in there. You put 100 value, 100 points.
Okay, that's the problem right there. Okay, I got it. I got it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't figure out why that number was up there. Okay,
Yeah.
so it really should be 100 out of 100.
100 out of 100.
Is there a way to change Weaver's grade to 100?
It is 100.
Huh?
You're looking at it
Well,
Somebody's was a 20 though.
there was one that has 20 on it.
I can change the 20, yeah, but it's not Weaver's. Weaver's got
Okay.
100. So let me go back to full grade center.
It was the person above Weaver.
Okay. Oh, Watson. Okay. Those are the two that I did, and you just did Tharp. So Watson is the one that scared me to death. I knew one of the two of them was wrong, so I stopped doing any of them. I'll do the rest of them this evening because I think the papers are all going to pass muster. I've scared them to death, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just changed that one to 100.
Okay. Thank you ever so much, because that 20 was what was bothering me. I didn't know how. Rachel was helping me some, and I didn't know how to ask her what to do about that. So I thought, if you could just show me how to fix it.
And all of mine have the score there, like 20 or 30 or 70.
Mm-hmm.
A couple weeks ago, you and I talked about it, and you said it was okay as long as they knew what that represented.
Yep.
Because it really wasn't going to count for anything.
Okay.
So I
We're just making sure that it's below 50 so that they didn't copy it from somebody else.
Right.
So here's one that's 21. That's good. Close it. Give them 100 points.
That's probably the weakest one I have, probably. That one right there. Yeah. I will be glad to do them because I'd like to make the comments because I know which ones have been through the fire.
Yeah. And so I've left you some there, but that's how you do that. And again, the 100 is not their Turnitin match score. The 100 is the quality of their work.
Okay. And there's no way once, like the ones that you did, there's no way for me to like go back into it and write anything else.
Yeah, you can write more. You simply go back to full grade center.
Uh-huh.
Find the student that you want to say something about.
Okay.
And then where it says final, slide across until you get to final evidence narrative.
Okay.
Hover next to the grade and a little arrow.
Oh, the little
arrow will come up, and then go to view grade details.
Uh-huh. Oh, yes.
And then you can edit grade.
All right. Okay.
And when you edit grade, you can leave the grade, but you can also edit your comments.
Okay. Thank you so much. Because I do want, I mean, some of them have just really, as I said.
Go back and write something nice.
I want to say something.
That's kind of against my personality to do that, so I don't really have that problem. But if you want to go back and write,
you know how granny grunts are.
All right. So that's the Turnitin. I think I've covered everything else that I need to tonight. I don't think there's anything else. I hope all of you will join us on May the 12th. Pardon?
Yep. Now you want to talk about the incompletes?
Yeah, I need to cover that. Thank you, Steve. All right. starting this summer in your shells this summer. And let me go to one right quick. I'm building summer shells right now, and then we will finalize them in August when we meet face to face. We will finalize. So I'm making master shells, and so like me, I'm teaching 603 this summer. Come on, load for me. All right, let's go to. Over here on the main menu, what we're going to start doing at our first session when we meet with our students the first time is we're going to cover, before we actually get into the class weekly schedule, the task stream requirements, peer reviewing, course syllabus, assignment Dropbox, discussion boards. Before we get to all that stuff, the first thing we're going to cover is withdrawal policy. And we're going to do this every semester from here on out.
That might get their attention.
And what a medical withdrawal and all that they've got to go through for that. Two things are happening and they're related. And I stay on the rug up in the registrar's office all the time. Students that get behind in their coursework want to withdraw. And they're coming up with all these different excuses to withdraw to try to beat the bad grade that's coming. We need to cover the withdrawal from them because this has implications for paying back financial aid. And so, and it has and all the things that have to be done because there's charge reductions, there's finances. And so we're going to cover this. Now, beyond the drop period, they're not supposed to be able to drop without penalty unless it's a medical drop. Well, I have copied out of the university handbook the process for a medical drop, and they have to go before a review board. It's actually a medical withdrawal committee, and they have to provide all this information from their doctors and health professionals and all those kinds of things. But the registrar is fed up with people trying to withdraw. We had people withdrawing last week. And this has become, we've had 30 withdrawals this semester, 30. So about twice a week or 3 times I'm up the hill over somebody trying to withdraw late. Now, the second thing that's part and parcel of that is the incomplete policy. Again, from the university's handbook, it says on an incomplete can only be assigned when a small amount of work is not submitted. It's only appropriate in situations where there are mitigating life circumstances. As a matter of course, we don't give incompletes unless something bad happens. Now, I've had a couple to happen. Had a student that emailed me today, and I know Tracy really well. She's an assistant principal in Mooresville. She's a quality person. Her dad's is a couple of states away, and he's had a stroke. Tracy thinks she'll be able to keep up, and she's done all of her work all semester. She's right at the end. She might have 1 or 2 things left to do. She's already got all of her tasks in this semester. She would be an appropriate person for an incomplete. Now, I will approve any and all when the requests come in for incomplete, forward those to me. I will talk with you as instructors about that, what you think. And what we're going to do is we're only going to do them 30 days at a time. I did 2 for this semester. I did them 30 days at a time. If you're not making sufficient progress after the first 30 days, you're just going to get your F then. We're not going to string it out to the whole 90 days, and at the end of 90 days you haven't done anything, and it becomes an F. One of my colleagues in his program is suffering the slings and arrows of this right now. He's got one who got an incomplete last semester. Her F just rolled up, and it's not going to be pretty. And so there's going to have to be extenuating circumstances to grant an incomplete, because it's got to be close and there had to be some significant life event. Otherwise, they're going to have to do a withdrawal. And see, sometimes withdrawals are you get an F anyway.
Right.
And so we need for them to understand the withdrawal policy and the income that the incompletes are not going to be used for people who just get behind. There's got to be something significant, and it's got to be a small amount of work, a small amount.
Not the whole thing.
But, not all the work for the whole semester. And too many of them are doing that. They're getting weeks and months behind and then wanting an incomplete or wanting to withdraw. When I tell them no incomplete, then they try to withdraw, and then the registrar is hopping mad over all these people not understanding the withdrawal policy. Have you gone over this? Well, no, it's in the handbook. Well, we need to cover it. Although it is in the university's handbook that's online, they don't read it. There's a difference for first 40% of the term and when they do. And then the last day of withdrawing is 4 weeks after the midterm, not to exceed 75% of the course. And then they get and they're still going to get an F, but if they withdraw and get their F, they don't have to sit out for a year. So we're going to get, again, the registrar wants to be involved. She wants us to make sure that she's making these decisions and not us, because she has to live with them. And so anytime anybody's going to ask for an incomplete, I'll adjudicate that. And anytime anybody wants a withdrawal, we're going to let the registrar. And that's what I've told them here. They're to get in touch with the registrar on that. They're going to have to go through that. So again, it tells them they have to get in touch with the registrar. And if it's a medical withdrawal, they're going to have to go through that review committee. And hopefully this will help us with our pacing with these students who get behind, who are chronically behind and think that they have this crutch of withdrawing or getting incompletes. We need for them to know right up front, there is no savior coming.
He's already been and gone.
Yeah.
Dale, one quick question. I keep getting things like the competency folio, internship form. I thought that was supposed to go to clinical coaches.
You probably have access. Everybody's doing fine. I'm checking most of that stuff as I'm supposed to. Their program manager is supposed to do that. We're not actually paying for a lot of that stuff. And so it's the program manager. I'll just tell you that what does, as program chair or department chair, coordinator, whatever my title is this week, I have no idea. But I get a 3-hour course credit, and I didn't ask for it, and I told them they could. They said no. This is. So for that 3-hour course credit that they add to my load, I do all of that kind of stuff, and that's the way it's always been set up. Dr. Shellman used to do it, if you remember.
Well, the reason I asked, because somewhere in the back of my brain, I thought we were told that the evaluators were not supposed to do that the clinical coaches were supposed to be.
Right. Evaluators have to evaluate the evidence artifacts. Clinical coaches do the coaching, and I'm supposed to come in and do competency analysis and competency because we're only paying coaches to coach and evaluators to evaluate and instructors to instruct.
Well, I had been leaving those because I didn't think the evaluators were supposed to.
No, but I wish Jerry was sitting here next to me, because Jerry did a great job setting this up and kind of separating it out, and I've gone in and kind of cleaned it up a little bit. But the whole idea that Jerry and now me have had from the very beginning is we don't pay enough, especially if we expect people to do things that's outside of their job scope. And so if you're paying a task stream coordinator a 3-hour course credit, it has to be a full-time person there to do all of that kind of stuff, where we just have the evaluators evaluate the work product for the state using the state rubric. They're not supposed to be involved in anything else. Coaches are just supposed to coach. And then
we do the competency folio, each of the 21 competencies and
eventually,
but when it gets to the DFR, the DRF.
Yeah, I'm doing them right now. Until I can convince somebody to pay you more, because it takes quite a while to do those.
Well, I'm doing them. What do you mean?
Until we get the pay up another $50 as was originally planned. When it was originally planned for coaches to do that portfolio and competency analysis, the pay was supposed to be $200. I know Barbara remembers that. Well, it never went from $150 to $200. They just said that the task stream coordinator could do that, so they wouldn't have to pay an additional $50. Well, as long as it stays that way, if you get to them before I do, I thank you. But I'm not going to ask you to do those, because in effect you're not being paid to do those. The 150.
Well, they're a lot easier to do than the folio.
I know the folios are the
folios what takes a lot of time. Once they put it into the DRF, all it is just going in and making sure it's there and slapping a net on it.
Yeah. But I want another $50 for you to have to review them, because I know the grading them is just,
It's monumental, and that's one of the things. If you take all this peer review away, I'm afraid my papers are going to be even worse. And,
Well, the peer review, we're going to keep peer review in terms of the written ones. I'm just mostly concerned. I mean, I know we're going to struggle with them early, but they get better. I'm just concerned that I'm not the video ones that accompany the written ones. Now, again, we're still going to written review all of them, all the tasks. That doesn't change. We're going to live with them being really not good in the beginning to get them to where they need to be in the end, because I believe that's one of the things that we need to do in terms of having critical conversations as administrators is, how do you deliver the bad news?
Right. They got to practice that.
Exactly. But the video part of it, I'm not seeing quality video reviews. And even from my own students, I'm not just talking about yours, I'm talking about mine. I load those things and I watch them for about a minute and I'm just disgusted.
You're sick.
They're not very good.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said we're only going to do 2 videos. We'll continue to written peer review all tasks, but just 2 tasks this summer on the video Zoom review.
Okay. Yeah.
That I just in a 10-week semester, I just can't. Those take too long. Mm-hmm. The students take up too much time doing those and too much effort and energy on something that I'm just not sure is providing the value for the amount of time that they're putting into it. I'd rather them put more time and do a better job on their written reviews, because those have value. Yeah, they're rough as a cop to begin with. Mm-hmm. But they get better, as Barbara pointed out, they get better. And we know why we're having them do those. Again, it's for those critical conversations with teachers. I mean, that they themselves are of more value for that than they really are to give feedback to the students initially. But it's a process of teaching them that you've got to be honest with people. You can't just say looks good.
And that's what they do.
So the process itself has value. But just doing it by video, I'm not sure has much value. And so that's what we're doing on that. But yeah, I want us to cover incomplete and withdrawal policies to try to tighten up. And I think it'll help us with our pacing, students not getting behind as much. I think that'll help. I want to thank Steve. Steve is going to do us a conflict management at our CILD in July. He's going to provide the first day. We have 7 sessions. They're 75 minutes. The first day we have 3, and Steve's going to use those for conflict management again. That was the number one thing that our collaborative partners said they wanted us to work on with students is conflict management, how to deliver the bad news. And then Mark is going to work on a communication one. He was a counselor at one time, so he's a nice man. So he's going to work on one, and I'm probably going to do a session. I'm thinking I'm going to do a session on APA. We really need, and not so much. Well, yeah, from the writing standpoint, but as the data wonk around here, the quantitative person, what just grinds me up is how they present data. It's just awful. I can't make sense of most of it. They don't follow APA. They don't tell you where it came from. They don't explain what's important in it. I mean, those are the two major functions of presenting data according to APA is tell us where it came from and why it's important. And it's supposed to be a sentence right underneath it. This came from here, and this is what's important, and highlights that. They don't do any of that. And so when I go in, and I know the evaluators, it eats a lot of their time trying to go back and forth and figure out does their data match their conclusions and their recommendations. Well, because most of the data they provide in graphic form, you can't make heads or tail of it. And so I'm going to probably do an APA one. That speaks to what that should look like in your paper, and I think that's it. If somebody else has something burning, I sent that email out with some suggested topics. But if somebody has a burning session that they'd like to do, let me know. Unfortunately, it'll be on that Saturday. But Mark will probably do the morning. I'll do the last one when everybody leaves. I'll take that slot. But there will be no staff development at the CILD. I don't know how we got off on that track, which is a disaster. Staff development will be in August when we always do our regular staff development sessions when we bring everybody in. That will be in August. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to sit down and look at class shells and intern shells. We're going to look at those kinds of things. And as you saw, I already have your summer shells built. Everybody has their intern shell. I've got those. And so one of the things that I would like to do down the road, and Rachel and I were talking about this, I'd like to be able to assign grades and not just pass fail in our intern shell.
Yes.
That would help us with the work as well.
Amen.
But right now it's just pass fail. We're the first people who ever on this campus did an actual Blackboard shell for an internship. Everybody else is just, they don't. And so I've actually even got Jeff doing it now in DEOL as well so that we can have assignment drop boxes. And so he's built a 733 shell. I've built internship shells. But I think if we go over the internship, if we go over the withdrawal policy, the incomplete policy, we tighten up and maybe even start giving grades in the intern shell, it will alleviate some of this problem with pacing. This program now, because the majority of our students are add-on in 3 semesters, the issue now is pacing. They've got to crank out 9 tasks every semester, and we don't have time for them to piddle and play and be late and not keep up. And so Danny and I don't know if Danny's with us tonight or not. But one of the things that Danny and I have done is work comes to the instructor, and if it's not good enough, we don't just have everybody put stuff in the intern shell. The only time that we tell them to go take their work to the intern shell is when they need a lot of one-on-one, need a lot of help and feedback. Because we're trying to streamline the process and move them through quickly, and having another step of putting it in an intern shell. If it's good work, move it on. And the intern shell is kind of for the ones that get behind or their work's not quality enough. We're using the intern shell and the intern coach to help the ones that need help. And if you don't need help, we keep you going. And we're trying to speed the process. It looks like between he and I think we have 55 students of the 601s add-ons this semester between he and I. And right now we have 51 of our 55 on track to have all of their work in by the end of this semester. And the other 4 we're working pretty hard on right now. But the idea here is if we can get them out of 601 and they're not behind and we've beat them up to the point where they know what's expected, it should get easier down the line, because it can't be that what we're doing every day, all day is pulling hen's teeth, trying to get this work out of. It's not supposed to be
That's where we are.
It's not supposed to be this hard.
Bill, do you have the dates for August?
Yes.
I do not. Those have not been released yet. My guess is, just looking at my calendar, let me grab
Oh, he's going to his box. Got to find his calendar in that box.
Aha! The oldest of the old school, this old school calendar here. All right, so looking at August, graduation is on the 4th. My guess is we're going to have that sometime the week of the 6th would be my guess, because I think the university work days will start on about the 13th usually, because the graduate school doesn't start back until, let's see, let me go over here. This didn't time me out. Let me go down through here. All right, here we go. All right. Faculty, I'm right. Faculty retreat and all that stuff starts on the week of the 13th. 13th is new faculty orientation. 14th, 15th is the required faculty days, and we normally try to do our workshops the week before that, because the week of the 20th undergraduates come back. And so my guess is it will be sometime the week of the 6th. I don't know if it'll be but we've been doing it at the end of the week, like the 9th and the 10th would be my guess right now. But again, that's up to Bruce. They don't have a new dean yet, as far as I know, or I missed that part maybe today. I was actually working for a living trying to.
Still no dean then? Nope.
As far as I know, unless there's been a surprise, they offered it to a person, but I don't even think he called him back. I don't know what happened with that deal. My recommendation, when I get the chief's ear, and I do every now and then, is don't hire anybody. Don't hire any faculty vacancies, period. You need to rethink how you're doing your business here. We don't need to have the old Oxford Don deal where you have people that walk around with robes on and white whiskers pontificating. You need people to work here. You don't need to hire full-time people unless they coordinate a program, and then hire adjuncts. Have them come online on Monday at 6 o'clock and train them, work with them, keep them informed. You can't pay your bills. If you can't pay your bills, you can't just keep on hiring people because you got vacancies. In terms of the dean ought to be a teaching full-time faculty member. You don't need to just hire somebody to come in and be a dean that just sits around and looks. You got enough people sitting around now.
Any news about the dean?
That's what I'm talking about. As far as I know, the person they offered it to didn't take it. But they should, my suggestion to the president last week was don't be giving it to anybody. Don't be offering it to anybody. Take and do a rotational basis among your full-time faculty. It's you, just like Bruce has done it for a year. Make him do it another year, or switch it to Steve or somebody else for a year or two or whatever. We don't have enough business here in the School of Education to have a full-time dean that's all they do. Not when you can't pay your bills. Don't be hiring, Dr. Bingham resigned last week. I guess you all know.
No.
He's going to High Point to be, he's moving to Jamestown to be with his mother And of course, he's moving his family there to be in that area where his kids are closer to his kids and to his mother. And so my suggestion is don't hire his position back. Hire, use adjuncts and save that position. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. There's going to have to be massive cuts here, whether they want to or not, because they can't pay their bills and they owe a lot of money. And they're operating at about a $3 million a year, and that's not counting some other things. They're not funding debt service, they're not funding maintenance, contingency. They're not funding things, and then still they're coming up about $3 million a year short, and they're having to dip into reserves, and reserves are about gone. And they owe $25 million in balloon payment. Pardon?
How did they get in this mess?
Poor leadership. All right. Well, they stepped out of their, in DEOL, my weekend job, we teach organizational theory to start with in 7:30. And one of the things you understand is there's 4 types of nonprofit, in terms of higher education. High Point is a client experience university where they have 4-star dining, they have concierge, they have maid service, all the buildings are new, they have the most pools. That's their deal. Gardner Webb is a patronage community organization. We hire everybody in the community. Well, that's fine and dandy, but for when the undergraduate enrollment took a big tumble after the economy crashed in 2007, one of the initiatives was to build a big new student center to try to attract students to come. Well, that's not why students come. And they only got enough money to basically to get it started, and they did a 10-year balloon. The balloon is going to be due in 2020. The balloon is due, and it's going to be about $25 million. They don't have that much money. They're going to have to refinance. Well, they can't refinance because they're upside down. And so eventually they're going to have to cut faculty and staff. Well, you can't cut faculty because they're on contract. And so as an act of good faith, my suggestion is that you freeze all faculty positions. You're going to have to cut about 35 staff positions this year. And so, to keep the mutiny from happening, you need to show that, that you're freezing faculty positions. You're not hiring people while at the same time cutting people who are actually in jobs, as you're going to have to do on the staff side. And so we've got about 70 too many people. And they want to get half of that debt of the overage this year and half the next year. That means about 35 people. And the more faculty positions you freeze, the fewer actually staff positions you have to cut people actually in those jobs. But we're going to have to lose 70 people. That's just, I'm on the select finance committee here for the university. We meet next Wednesday again. We just can't pay our bills. We've had, undergraduate enrollment is down 700. Graduate school is doing fine, but the undergraduate school is not.
Yeah.
And so, but you can't survive in a political organization, which this is a patronage political organization. You can't survive if you continue to hire faculty members. If you continue to hire faculty members while cutting staff positions, it becomes untenable politically. The only way that you can kind of stave off the revolt is freeze faculty while cutting staff. I've been through this before twice in my career. If you look close enough, you can see some of the scars on me. I've done this before. I know how this goes. This is not my first time at this dance. And so you can't continue to hire faculty positions while you're cutting staff positions. That just won't play in the community, and it won't play across campus. And so, although I would like to replace these people and I'd like to have more help, I'm a realist in terms of if you do that, you will have a mutiny on your hands here. And that's why they've resisted cutting faculty for the last 10 years and with this declining enrollment because they're afraid of the blowback. Well, I told them, you can just blame me. I've got my time in. I'm one of the 4 on the committee. I've got my time in. I can go home. And I don't believe too many of them around here would meet me out in the road to discuss it either. You can't pay your bills. Somebody's got to go home. You got to work on the debt side of the ledger. You can't introduce enough new programs to overcome this kind of debt. It's not going to happen. They've got some new things in the hopper, but it'll take a long time for them to flesh out, and it won't make the kind of money that they need instantly. They need to reverse the bottom line, $10.6 million a year in order to fund contingency, can fund depreciation, to fund maintenance, to fund debt service, and to be, $3 to $5 million in the black every year in order to pay back this loan if they can get it done. The finance chairman here, the vice president, agrees that the real number is $10.6 million different every year, not one time, every year. You can't make up that kind of deficit by new programs. You're going to have to cut on the other side. And so that's why they nickel and dime me and won't pay you the $50 to do the competency folio. And so, but I'm not going to require people to do work that they're not being paid for. I'll just do it myself. I don't need to sleep. I can sleep when I die. But see, we can't take advantage of the people who are working for us.
One of the things I went through some of what you're talking about in a certain grade level, we just did not hire them back. If I looked and saw there wasn't enough money and we didn't have the students for a full load for the faculty, then we just didn't hire them back. And
right,
you can do that a few at a time, and you don't get run out of the county.
That's exactly right, Barbara. I've tried to explain that to these people. We've done this before.
And you have to do it that way.
You have to, but they don't want to do it that way. You've got to freeze and not fill positions as much as you can first before you start actually telling people you can't work. Well, you can come tomorrow, but I can't pay you. You got to go home. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll get run out of town.
That's exactly right.
And so I've tried to explain to them that this is not new in the public school business. We get reductions in budget all the time when we have to do stuff like this. We had to let 200 go at one time in Charlotte-Mecklenburg, and they scratched my new truck.
Oh.
I can't imagine why you do that.
That's mean.
That's the way it goes. People aren't happy.
Yeah.
But that's how you keep it from being a mutiny.
Yeah.
But they refuse to do that, and it's not good. We had one of the faculty members screaming and yelling about hiring a new provost, and I couldn't argue with that. Here we are now. We now have 6 associate provosts. We have 1 provost and 6 associate provosts. We have enough money here for 2 associates, and we have 6. And so when the last one was hired, there has been just a huge blowback on that. And I don't know what to tell people other than you're just going to have to. I can help you, but you have to let me. I can tell you how to get yourself out of this trouble. But you have to, if you don't want my opinion, don't put me on the committee to come and talk with you. But we'll see what they do. But in the meantime, I told them, I said, I've got really good people that work with me. I'm not fretting over replacing some people. Steve does a good job, and I hate to lose him, but I'm not fretting over that. I've got good people. We're working with them. They've got skills. We're training them. We spend time. I feel completely comfortable, moving classes to the folks that I've got. And so, would I like to have those people back? Yeah, I would, but I don't want to be the one that has to, to suffer the slings and arrows of we're continuing to hire people while people, lose their jobs, and it looks like we're fiddling while Rome is burning over here. Everybody's got to show a little bit of pain. That we're, Barbara says, otherwise you're gonna get run out of town. So that's what's going on. We'll see what happens. I love this place. I love the idea of a Christian university. I don't like the operation of it, but I love the idea. And we're going to have to become more businesslike in our approach. And we're going to have to learn some lessons that some of us have already learned, and listen to people that might have done something other than this all their life, that have been somewhere else and had these kind of lessons demonstrated on us. So we'll see what happens on that. All right. I think that's everything I had to cover tonight, and we'll meet again in 2 weeks. Let me look at my calendar and make sure. So tonight is the 23rd. All right, and so that would be Monday, May the 7th. We'll meet again, and that'll be right before graduation. Again, if any of you would like to come and walk with us, I'd be honored for you to come and walk with us in graduation. And so if you want to do that, Sarah, I'll pick up your regalia and make sure that I have it here, and I'll be here early that day. And everybody else is welcome.
I'd love to, but I can't.
3 o'clock on Saturday, May the 12th. We'll go at 3. Need to be here by about 2:30. We line up at 2:30 over at, if you want to march with us, you have to have your regalia. But we line up at 2:30 over at YCC, Luke Shelton, the basketball arena. And then, of course, right after we'll go to Tucker for the reception. So as many of you can come, that would make me happy. I know it's taking time out of a busy schedule, but it's always, the students like to see you. It means a lot to them. And so if you can make it, that'd be great. All right, I see my time is up. My wife has called to find out I broke the leash and got out of the house today, so she's calling to find out where I am, so I better call her back. I will see you all. Call me, email, whatever you need. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.